Excellent. Well, this is amazing show that happens with Paige Spears on the second and fourth Friday of the month. This is your help. Paige, over to you.
Yes, thank you for your introduction to the Choose Greater Health show, Sue. And today I have Jeff Pearson with me, and he can tell us a little about himself and his connection with brain injury.
All right. Appreciate it, Paige. Thanks for having me. This is awesome. I always love working with you. I always love working with Kurt and Sue and the whole gang. It's all good. So thank you. Brain injury. I was born with a condition called hydrocephalus, which loosely translated is water on the brain, which means my brain did not drain the fluid that everybody's brain produces fluid every day, all day. We all produce about a quart a day of this cerebral spinal fluid. Well, my brain wasn't equipped when I was born to drain the fluid the way it was supposed to. And so I had my first brain surgery at 2 weeks old to correct that. And they drilled a hole in my skull back here and installed what they called a shunt. And that entails a tube going into the brain to collect the fluid. The shunt is the pump, which is right here. And then it pumps the fluid down a tube, which is right here, just to kind of add like an artificial ventricle in the brain to reabsorb into the body like it's supposed to naturally. So that was my introduction to the world. I've since had 6 more brain surgeries, 4 recent ones. Between 2014 and 2021, I've had 4. And every one of those brain surgeries, has kind of wreaked havoc on my brain. It's a brain injury every time they go hacking around in there. So not to mention a couple concussions when I was a kid and, that kind of thing. So yes, brain injuries are very familiar in our household, and there you go.
Yeah. So would you say in your experience that the standard medical system could be more familiar with all of the options available now, and that there are even more coming up? Or have things stalled in terms of referrals to additional resources and providers?
Well, I don't remember much from when I was a kid and having those early brain surgeries and early concussions and stuff. You just kind of go to the doctor where your parents take you, and you don't really think about it because you're a kid. It's not where your mind is. Your mind is like, get me outside. I want to play some more. What are we doing here? When you get older, though, after I got married and those 4 brain surgeries in a row between 2014 and 2021. We pay a little closer attention. And so I would definitely say, I mean, brain injuries are such a delicate thing, right? There's such a touchy subject, and every single one of those is unique for the person. Each person is unique. Every brain is unique, and every traumatic brain injury every time is unique. And so I don't really fault the medical community for not having enough resources because it's such a mystery still. I think that, I think they mean well, but they just can't, they can't possibly help in the way that I think they want to because there's so many variables. So, so the short answer to your question is yes, I think the medical community could use more help in that. And to go along with that, I have got resources out the door for things outside the medical world that have helped me with traumatic brain injuries, with memory loss, with migraine headaches, all the different side effects from brain surgery. So
Yeah, and I have likewise, and that's the situation where the state of Missouri only has funding to support what they call traumatic brain injuries, like concussions, and not like ours, which is a broad general term, acquired, and meaning like acquired from birth or otherwise, and not a traumatic impact. And so I have also been on my own journey of discovering additional resources. The standard medicine, the standard medical approach, and standard speech therapy and occupational therapy were good for me and life-saving. And then I had to find my own path to thriving. and I came across things like neurofeedback, and that was the thing with electrodes on my head and running certain protocols to a TV, and the picture would get clearer when my brain would respond well. And that is good for long-term maintenance. And there's a thing called EMDR, and that's red light therapy, and that's good in the short term. So I had 8 months of twice weekly neurofeedback sessions. So that worked out well for me. And that is what I credit for giving me a good baseline for emotional well-being, and then nutrition could pick up from there and fill in the gaps of what I needed for neurotransmitter balance.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. And like the case in point, everybody's journey is so personal and so different. You had 8 months of twice a week neurofeedback therapy.
Yeah, in the first year post-injury.
There you go. Exactly. And so in that first year post-injury in 2014, 2 back-to-back brain surgeries to treat bacterial infection they found in the CSF. And 3 weeks in the hospital, they kicked me out after the 2 surgeries. I was on the road to recovery, and I started having migraines. And I tell you what, after several months of looking and going back to the neurosurgeon, and the neurosurgeon saying, "Geez, I'm sorry, I guess you're just going to have to live with headaches." We started looking for things, and neurofeedback was what ultimately we found that got rid of the migraines, and that happened. Every brain is different. Every person is different. So I'm not promising this for anybody, but for me, 4 weeks, once a week, 4 weeks of neurofeedback, and those migraines were gone, and they've never come back. So those therapies, they're so personal to each person, but man, can some of them work wonders. So if you're suffering with something, man, just keep looking and ask for those resources, because people have them and they're willing to share. So.
Yeah, I consider myself kind of a unicorn, since what happened in my case was I had been taking anti-anxiety medications like SSRIs and benzodiazepines and combination hormonal birth control for 12 years beforehand. And so I think that's what led to the blood clots building up in my brain or in my lungs and causing the oxygen deprivation injury.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, well, and that's the other thing. I get questions a lot about why did the hydrocephalus occur, and did they ever find a cause? And at 2 weeks old, the doctor that found it was a general practitioner doc that was in our family practice clinic in Fort Collins, Colorado, and he was doing all the right things, and checking the baby out, me, at 2 weeks old at that checkup. And he did that head measurement that, and it was just 1 centimeter outside the norm. And that's what kind of prompted him to get that initial CT scan that brought me to brain surgery for the first time, that ultimately saved my life, and so, but I think, I don't know. It's so different for every person, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2016, there was that much awareness of the potential for blood clots, since they had everyone in the ER at that time automatically get prophylactic blood thinners. So I had heparin drip at least, and that started to work, and that's what clued them into, oh, that might be a blood clot issue.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many mysteries with what can happen. I've heard stories from my parents from that time in my life, that early on time. And they've said, there was a brain bleed at some point, but apparently they called me I was a slow bleeder. So thankfully they were able to, take care of that before it caused too much of a problem. And so, yeah, it's so unique, and all these stories that I hear, and all the stories that you hear and that we get to tell here on these amazing broadcasts like this, it's just, I hope people learn stuff from these, because it can be helpful for you, but it can also be helpful for somebody or somebody you love. So hopefully you're soaking this up.
Yeah, and I've also been involved with horses a lot. I took English style riding lessons from the time I was 13 up through college, and I started college as an equestrian major, although then I transferred schools and changed majors and finished my BA in dance, but then came back to therapeutic horseback riding. And that's really been a big part of my recovery, really
Nice.
getting to know the horses and doing a little amateur horse training in addition, having not forgotten my riding skills.
Very
And
cool.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I see you have a dog in a painting behind you. Have dogs been a big part of your life?
I mean, growing up, we always had a black lab in the house. This painting is actually kind of cool because this painting's been around longer than I have. This painting was in the house that I grew up in. It's always been in the house, you know. And then, the story goes that my parents always had a black lab around. They had one, and then that one passed away. They got another one. That one passed away. They got, they had three over my life, over my childhood, and so I love black labs. And this painting was at a Ducks Unlimited fundraiser dinner, and my dad's a big hunter and fisherman, and so am I. And so he saw that and said, "Oh, that looks just like our dog. We got to get it." And so he got that. And then they moved to a much smaller house about 4 years ago and said, "We don't have room for all this stuff. Do you want this one?" I was like, "Yeah." So yeah, I love this picture has a special place in my heart because I love black labs and because I love where it came from. So
Yeah, I had done
yeah,
some dog training and adopted a little Malinois mix as part of a program some years
nice.
before, and brought her back to live with my parents who had a fenced-in backyard, and she stayed there where I just had been moving back and forth between Illinois and Missouri. And so she was there with my parents when I lived with them again for a few months after the injury, and that was
Yeah,
nice to have her around.
totally. Yeah, I don't think dogs. I don't think those dogs in my house in my childhood were really necessarily part of my, comeback from surgeries or recovery or anything like that. It was just cool to have them, and
Yeah,
after I got married in '99, we've been married just over 27. Our 27th anniversary was in June, and in 27 years we've never been in a spot where it made sense to have a dog. So I kind of missed that. So maybe someday we'll get one again. But
yeah, I saw the
dogs are pretty
training
awesome.
behind having a service dog and the point of it, although not that my situation exactly qualified, but it's nice to have a dog sometimes.
Totally. Speaking of service dogs, I did. I thought about going down that road a few years ago with some really severe side effects from a brain surgery, and I tell you what, I'm still not ruling it out. I don't think it would be a terrible idea, but that is a long, hard road, or it
Mm-hmm.
can be. So
Yeah.
yeah, if anybody has any stories or tips or tricks or shortcuts or anything like that, I am all ears because I still think it'd be valuable.
You
So
could even do an episode of your show about that if you find someone.
I have actually I think it was in our first or second season, I had an expert in the ADA laws in the state of Colorado come on, and she had a service dog with her that kind of laid down over here. She came in the studio, and the dog was laying down here. I thought, well, we'll bring the dog on in the second segment or something, and then all of a sudden, boom, the dog just jumped in her lap. I said, oh, guess we're talking about it now. But yeah, that was a fun episode. That's a great episode because it is very valuable for people to know about that stuff too. Because a lot of people could use a service dog, and there's so many areas you could have a service dog be helpful, and
Yeah, there's
people aren't even
someone
aware of.
in
So
my local brain injury group who has
yeah,
a service dog, although I can't remember if it's mostly an ESA or other things. But
yeah.
yeah, he had the injury when he was younger.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about service dogs, right? They're so specialized. I know ones that can they detect their dogs are so stinking smart, man. They're brilliant creatures, and they can detect so much. Whether it's seizure activity or can predict when you're going to have a seizure and get you in a safe place, or different blood sugar, type things, or it's just it's amazing. So I'm excited to go down that road someday, but not today.
Yeah. What tips would you give other brain injury survivors looking for options?
Man, keep looking for them, man. Keep looking for them. We pounded the pavement for better part of a year before we found neurofeedback to eliminate those migraines. So we, those nonstop 24/7 migraines I had for little over a year post brain surgery in 2014. That was a rough road, but what kept me going was knowing that there was one more thing to look for, one more therapy that I hadn't tried yet, one more thing I hadn't explored yet, and so we found that chiropractic neurologist, and man, that was helpful and that was great, and it reduced the severity and frequency of those migraines, but they were still there. And what else could we find? And I think just the hope that there's so many resources out there was helpful. So if you are in that boat and you don't know where to look next, like, get in touch with me, man. I would love to have a Zoom call with anybody that wants to talk about resources. In fact, we created a community around that at one point. So I'm big. It's a big deal. Resources are a big deal. So
Yeah.
just don't give up. Keep looking.
That's what this show is about too. I've also seen, I see chiropractors, and I have seen a functional neurologist, and also now a neuromovement provider to really get my brain and body coordinated again. Man,
one of the things I saw after, oh gosh, which one was it? I don't remember which brain surgery it was, but it was either in 2014 or 2021. But I saw a neuro-optometrist of all things, and it was basically, the idea was, prism in the lens and different prescriptions.
I have prisms
stuff.
in my glasses lenses now.
The idea that she was saying was that you have kind of like an internal GPS, and if your eyes and your brain aren't matching up with what it's communicating with each other, the GPS is going to be off and it's not going to be accurate, and you're going to be dizzy and you might be disoriented, and that's a big deal too. If you find yourself with those kind of symptoms, neuro-optometrist might not be a very terrible idea to explore. It was amazing to find her. So yeah.
I saw a behavioral ophthalmologist at first, since that was the only place we can find that would really do much with a condition like mine. And have had the prisms adjusted a few times since. It was originally too strong. And so we backed off that after a few months and changed it. And I also had to relearn how to read in the first 6 months post-injury. It was, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, and I was being moved to the rehab hospital, and I tried to read the signs in the hallway and realized that I couldn't, and that kind of freaked me out.
Yeah, a little bit. I would think so. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, that chiropractic neurologist I mentioned before that is kind of a rare title. I didn't realize how rare it was, but he was right here in Colorado Springs. He's the only chiropractic neurologist in the whole state of Colorado, and he was just down the road from me. And so that was really fortunate when I needed it. And he almost became my primary care guy. Hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think that would, what about this therapy, But the other cool thing is he had an eye specialist in there, some sort of, I don't know if he was a neuro-optometrist or what his title was, but he gave me exercises. We did them in the office, and then he sent me home with the videos to continue at home. And it was just all these different eye movement video exercises they were so cool, and man, were they helpful. It strengthened, the connection, the neuro-ophthalmologist, or I don't know what the word is, the connection between the eyes and the brain. It was
I would think you would have had vestibular issues too. I think I had a little bit, and it resolved.
What issues?
The vestibular.
Vestibular. What's that big word mean?
With balance and sensing orientation.
Yeah. Yeah, balance was balance was a thing for sure. After the 2014 thing with the migraines and well, and I had already had 2 eye surgeries that have basically rendered my eyes useless together. So I cannot use both my eyes together. Like right now, I'm looking at you with this one. Now I'm
Mm.
looking at you with this one. They work independently. And
Oh.
so that really threw off my depth perception for a while. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
the God is brilliant, and our bodies are so adaptable. And so, that was 40 years ago. So I'm good now. I've adapted.
Mm-hmm.
I compensate for a lot of things. But man, it's amazing how much your body can just do for you. You know what I mean? Like can compensate for you. It's
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. My injury was only 10 years ago. Yeah. So I was
Yeah.
32 when it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and I've had recurring injuries. I mean, every brain surgery has been a traumatic brain injury. I've had, like in
Mm-hmm.
elementary school, I fell off some of the playground equipment. I've
Yeah.
run into the back of cars on my bike. I broke my arm skateboarding when I was a kid. I mean, I've had a lot of spills,
Mm-hmm.
probably more concussions and brain injuries than I even know of. But it's part of it is a mental game too, right? Like
Yeah.
you've got to be focused on getting better. You got to be
Mm-hmm.
focused on I am no longer a concussion victim. I am now I am healthy,
Yeah.
and focus on that, and your brain will get there because your brain is a very powerful tool. It's if you tell your brain you're sick all the time, what do you think's going to happen? So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah. It was great to have you on the show today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you for the time, man. This has been fun. I always love talking to you, Paige. This is great.
Yeah. And if you have any links for anyone who would like to learn more about you and what you do, you can send those to me and the team, and we'll get them in the show notes.
I definitely will. And FYI for everybody out there, Paige has been on my TV show. So you should definitely check. The YouTube link will be in the notes, and you should definitely check out her show because it was awesome. And Kurt has also been on my show, and so he was an amazing guest as well. So if we've got so many amazing stories on there, so all that'll be in the and you can contact me multiple ways, email and through the different social media links and stuff. So all of that, I'll give all of that to Paige and make sure it's all in there. And if anybody has any questions, my calendar link will be in there. Jump on my calendar anytime, man. I am always excited to help people especially in this arena. So bring it on.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.